The afternoon my fiancée asked for time, I handed her a calendar and used every square to unwrite the future she'd penciled herself into. My name is Evan Hale. I'm 33, a municipal surveyor who spends his days locating things most people step over without noticing. Control monuments sunk into sidewalks, iron pins hiding under ivy, the invisible edges where your deed ends and your neighbor's begins. My work is patient and precise. I measure twice, mark once, then write it all down like a man, leaving breadcrumbs for the version of himself who always double-checks. I live in Northbridge, a river city 2 hours inland that sells itself as quaint in summer and honest the rest of the year. The millstream cuts it in half, water the color of old pennies running past brick warehouses that have become coffee shops, yoga studios, and places that sell candles with names like Redwood Sunday. From certain bridges, if you squint, you can pretend you're looking at an ocean. It's a lie, but the good kind. It makes the wind taste like travel for a second. I met Talia Ruiz at a friend's backyard cookout 4 summers ago, the kind of evening where string lights make everyone better looking and the dog in charge of begging is allowed to retire early. Talia introduced herself like she expected to be remembered. She was a brand strategist by title, translator in practice. Quick eyes, animated hands, pitched her plans like films that already had posters. She knew which side of her face the sun liked and didn't hesitate to pivot to it in conversation. I like the directness. I like the hunger. When she asked what I did, I told her I found where things truly started and ended. Like feelings, she said, laughing, and I should have paid attention to the foreshadowing. 8 months later, she moved into my house on Crocus Street, a squat 3-bedroom with a stubborn maple in the front yard and a back deck that needed new joists. I'd scraped together the down payment 2 years before, after a decade of saving, saying no to vacations that came with group photos, and learning to cook the 3 meals I know how to make in variations that didn't feel like penance. I didn't add her to the deed. Not because I am stingy. Because sequence matters to me. Survey first. Sign later. It stayed my house on paper and became our home the day she strung cafe lights, filled the east window with succulents, and painted one wall the color of a bruised plum because rooms need risk. Last winter, under paper lanterns along the millstream, I asked her to marry me. The ring was simple, a clean oval in a thin gold set, paid in 4 careful installments. She cried and said yes, and then immediately calculated lighting, outfits, and which rooftop was most us for engagement photos. I mistook that for joy. She mistook my steadiness for permanence. Hairline cracks don't announce themselves. Bridges groan, houses whisper, people rephrase. At first, the slippage felt like nothing. Talia's phone started living face down. She adopted a new perfume and said a woman she worked with made her try it. She began working late with the team, 3 nights running while the team's group chat posted pictures of sourdough experiments and dogs in sweaters. She went to the gym at odd hours and came back with a cologne on her that I didn't wear and strangers didn't either. I counted those things like I count paces along a boundary line, quietly, without letting the land know I'd found its secrets. On a Saturday in March when the wind slapped the weather vane for sport, she leaned against the office doorframe with a face I'd come to recognize from her pitches. It's the one she wears when she's decided on an outcome and is about to sell you the pretense that you chose it too. Ev, she said soft. Can we talk? I saved my work, slid the survey map back into its tube, and made my voice spare. Sure. She curled into the old blue armchair and looked at the plant in the corner instead of at me. I need time to figure out myself. Us. Everything. How much time? I asked, because measurement is how I stay upright. I don't know. A few weeks? A month? I love you. My head's loud. I need to hear my heart. Do you plan to be alone while you're listening? I said, polite like a clerk asking if you want your receipt. Her eyes flicked to mine and away. Yes, of course. The lie wasn't even sanded. It would still give you splinters if you ran your hand over it. I nodded. Okay. She packed that night. 2 suitcases, a cosmetics bag that could start its own airline, the ring still on her finger. She hugged me at the door, the way people do when they're about to board a plane and they want to be absolved of turbulence they'll never feel. I carried her bags down the steps like a gentleman in a film she thinks she's playing the lead in. I watched the taillights turn left toward downtown and then keep going. I sat on the couch we bought when she said, "No more crime scene furniture." and let the quiet push into my ears. It didn't hurt. It didn't heal. It clarified. Some decisions are like that. You think they'll feel like surgery. They end up feeling like correct math. I didn't storm her texts. I didn't interrogate friends. I didn't follow her blue dot around the city. I went to work. I measured. I came home. I made pasta and ate it standing up. I slept across the bed like a man remembering he doesn't have to keep to his side. By Wednesday, professional habit kicked in. Document, don't dramatize. Talia had left our recipe iPad in the kitchen. The streaming iPad lived under the TV. Both were still logged into her accounts because convenience always outruns caution inside a house that feels kind. I killed the Wi-Fi on both, took photos of the settings, dates, account names, what had been on when, then opened Safari in airplane mode out of respect for the version of me who gets dragged to court in a parallel universe. Her socials read like a press release. Growth. Hustle. And brunch. I scrolled back a month and found the first wrong angle. A coffee shop shelfie where a reflection in the pastry case belonged to a man standing just outside the frame. Not me. Not any friend I'd met. The comments had a heartbeat. One name kept tapping, Marcus Wen. He'd written, "Proudest of you," under her photo and address I'd never seen in our closet. Marcus, I knew that one. The ex from her 20s who taught me boundaries. The one who wasn't ready to share a future. The one who left a plant on her porch with a note that said, "Sorry, I couldn't water this." I remembered the scar she carried like a souvenir and said nothing to it on purpose for years. Friday, my friend Owen called from a number he only uses when the thing he's about to say can't handle humor. "You home?" he asked. "Yeah. I'm 2 blocks from the Lantern. Just saw Talia on Maple with a guy, cropped hair, startup uniform, shoes too white. They were not fighting." "Snap," I said. He winced aloud. "Already sent. I'll be the villain at parties for 6 months." Her hand was on the guy's forearm. His body leaned in like time was a hammock. They looked like 2 people who had decided the truth was optional if the lighting was nice. "Thanks," I said. He told me he was sorry. I told him he didn't need to be. In the background of his call, I heard the busker who always plays the same 3 chords in different orders. For once I felt grateful for repetition. It's proof you're not dreaming. I prepared. Step 1. Paper. I pulled a manila folder from the cabinet and wrote in block letters. Timeline. Screenshots. Dates. Notes in ink because ink still carries weight people online have forgotten about. I printed the Maple photo and slid it under a paperclip like a man she'd say was obsessive if obsessiveness hadn't just saved me. Step 2. Counsel. Priyanka Dutta is who contractors call when a neighbor's addition sneaks 6 inches over and starts a war. Priyanka looks like a librarian and talks like a backhoe. I sent her a message with the words house, engaged, and time in it. She replied with a phone call and a sigh that sounded expensive. "Who's on the deed?" she asked after hello. "Me." Before her. 2 years. "Any written cohabitation agreement?" "No." "You're fine," she said. "Don't change the locks yet. That can be cast as hostile. Inventory anything you can prove you purchased. Photograph every room. If you intend to sell, move briskly. Feelings escalate when things moss over." Step 3. Accounting. We had accumulated a life together. Bed, table, sofa, 800 throw pillows that had their own ecosystem. She chose. I paid. Not because she asked, because my job lets me stack what I need. I keep receipts as a matter of religion. My father keeps his birth certificate in a folder labeled worth keeping. I learned the doctrine. I spread proof across the dining table and split it into columns. Hers, mine, ours. Ours, I decided, would get a separate storage unit with 6 months paid in advance. There is a way to cut cleanly and still honor what was true. Some people think revenge means ignorance. It doesn't. It means precision. The city's winter market flyers were still taped to light poles when Talia texted, "Hey, you. How are you? I'm thinking. I love you. Please be patient." I wrote back, "I'm okay. Take your time." Jenna, Talia's friend with the careful eyebrows, sent a message from a private account she probably forgot I'd ever approved. "This isn't fair to you," she wrote. "She hasn't stayed here one night." I told her to be straight. "I'm sorry, Evan." "Thank you." I sent back. That's more kindness than I was expecting from that side of the story. By then I'd already called Ms. Lang, the realtor who sold me the house, the one who believes in porches as much as percentages. "I want a list," I said. Fast. Spring's selling season, she said. We can get you a line down the block if the price sinks. Are you sure? Yes. She walked through the rooms with a pin tucked behind her ear and an expression I'd trust to diagnose a rattling furnace. We're going to tell the truth, she said. Small house, big lot, sunlight you can drink. We'll price it so the right buyer says, don't show me another. We staged lightly. My life had never been heavy on objects. Talia had added flourish. I packed the flourish into clear bins labeled with a label maker so good at its job, it made me emotional. Ms. Lang installed a sign at the curb and a lockbox at the front knob. The listing went live on a Thursday. I baked the dumb cookies my mother makes when she wants the house to smell like generosity. Saturday, we opened. Couples came in their practiced pairs, holding hands in the ways that told me who leads and who thinks they do. A firefighter and a second-grade teacher stood in the kitchen and looked at one another the same way people look when they know how to keep promises. A nurse with a tired face smiled when she saw the direct morning light hit the hallway. A woman in scrubs whispered, "My grandma had that same trim," like you might say a prayer. Offers arrived by nightfall. By Sunday noon, the firefighter and teacher were at my table drinking water from mismatched glasses, saying, "We don't want to insult you." We closed fast because they offered clean and because I wanted this part of the story to stop having chapters. On Tuesday, a stranger rang my bell. He had the posture of a man who has read all the books on influence and underlined the parts where a firm handshake equals destiny. "Evan," he said, like a magician announcing a volunteer's name. "I'm Marcus, Talia's friend." "Friend," he said, with an expression designed to sell me the meaning. "Do you have a minute?" he asked. I do not owe other men the time they didn't give me. I also like samples of my enemy's interior monologue. "Sure," I said and let him in. He looked around. "Great bones," he said, because men like him always say that. "She told me you did a lot of the work yourself." "I did," I said. "I wanted to get ahead of this," he began. "It's messy. Feelings are complicated. She cares about you. She just needs space. I can help you and her navigate." "You're offering mediation?" I said, tilting my head the way you do when a goose starts speaking English. "Understanding," he said. "No need for drama. My lawyer's name is on the fridge," I said. "If you think we need understanding, I'll give you her card. She translates into consequences for a living." His smile got tighter. "I didn't come to threaten you." "I'm not threatened," I said. "I'm documenting." He laughed once, a bark a man's throat gives when it realizes it might not be in charge of the volume. "She doesn't want to hurt you," he said. He gestured vaguely at my ceilings. "Happened. Lightning happens," I said. "People book hotels." He blinked. I looked at the watch on his wrist, too large, too shiny, and wondered if he'd bought it to remind himself he was worth seeing. "Does she know you came here?" I asked. "She said maybe I could," he started, and stopped, because liars get tripped by their adverbs. "If you're going to try this on me," I said, "practice on someone who didn't grow up measuring things that other people pretend are approximate." He left. I didn't watch him go because I didn't need to. Some exits don't deserve an audience. Talia texted the next morning. "I'm ready to talk." "Sunday? At the house?" 3, I wrote. "I'll be there." I got there at 2 with the last box for my own storage unit. The living room looked like a ghost of itself. I'd left 2 bright plastic beach chairs borrowed from my neighbor because they made the room's emptiness obvious in a way that cost me nothing. The nail holes from our gallery wall gaped like open mouths. The floors, newly mopped, reflected a window I had cleaned with a zeal that felt like prayer. I sat and waited like a witness in my own trial. She arrived early, because control for her has always been Time's younger sister. She let herself in with a key I hadn't taken because I want to be able to live with my choices when no one's watching. She stopped like someone had removed the stage while she was in makeup. "What did you do?" she asked. "Please," I said, gesturing to the chair. She sat, smoothed her skirt. One I'd never seen, good fabric, expensive when bought for discounts, and tried to gather her face into something that could plead without sweating. "Where is everything?" she asked. "In there," I said, sliding a manila envelope across the floor between us. 6 months storage paid. Inventory attached. Photos. The unit's on Halcyon Street, climate controlled. Here's the key. She looked at the list like it might rearrange itself into a softer story if she stared long enough. "And the rest." "The rest is sold with the house or packed in my truck," I said. "The house." she repeated, like a person learning a new noun. What do you mean, the house? I mean, I accepted an offer, I said. We close Friday. The couple is sweet. He's a firefighter. She teaches second grade. They're going to hang construction paper turkeys across that archway and fight about drawer organization and fix the squeak on the back door I never got to. They'll love it. Her mouth opened and didn't find a word. The ceiling fan pushed air around like it was trying to stir soup. She did the math that is both money and pride, and it landed in the white space on her face. Evan, she said, and her voice belonged to the woman who cried under the lanterns when I asked the question I had saved for her. I'm sorry. I messed up. He was nostalgia in shoes. It felt like a question I had to answer, or I'd spend the next 10 years wondering. I didn't mean to disappear you while I asked it. I thought I could do this clean. I want to come home. You had a home, I said, and I kept all the anger I might have once performed out of my voice because accuracy hurts more than volume. You wanted a safety net you could flirt above. You called it time. It was a tryout. She took a breath like you do when the pool is cold and you've decided to stop lying about whether you're going to get in. I was wrong. I see that now. He isn't any of the things I remembered him being. He's charming like a trailer. You're careful, I said, not unkindly. Don't make me the consolation prize in my own living room. She swallowed. I love you, she said. I loved us, I said. The way this worked when it worked wasn't me dragging an uncooperative cart. It was a pair of hands on the same handle. You're selling our house, she said again, as if repetition could make my sentence try on a different outfit. I'm selling my house, I said, softly, to keep it from feeling like a bell struck too hard. Bought 2 years before you. Paid for by me. Renovated by us. Made into a home by both of us, yes. But titled in my name. And I'm not punishing you with the sale. I'm choosing me with the move. There's a difference you might like when you learn it. She cried then, big crying, not the glossy kind she uses in offices to buy 5 minutes of grace. It wasn't pretty. It didn't need to be. I waited. When she finished, she looked small and newly built, like someone had taken her apart and left only the parts that knew how to be real. What would you have done, I asked, if he had made you feel the way you wanted to feel? Would you be here right now telling me, I needed to try it and I chose you anyway? Or would I be opening a text that said, we didn't plan it, but the heart wants what it wants? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Silence is a reply when it follows a hard question. I'm leaving in an hour, I said. Walk the rooms. Take anything of yours I missed. The list covers it. The key is yours. When you're done, lock the door. Put my key in the mailbox. I stood. She reached for me without thinking, then stopped with her hand hovering in the air like a streetlight blinking yellow at an empty intersection. You were my safest place, she whispered. I didn't know how to be grateful for that without resenting it. I hope you learn, I said. Being grateful's a muscle. Being honest is bones. I didn't slam the door when I left. I drove to the warehouse district where my storage unit waited like a pause button, loaded the last box, and then drove to Ms. Lang's office to initial a stack of papers that turned a house into money and a memory. If you ever want back in this market, she said, I'll take your call on a Sunday. I told her I hoped to live somewhere the days had different names. That somewhere was Seabright Cove. Coastal town, population always lying by a few dozen, gulls that sound like they're auditioning for a play about gulls, boats that need more maintenance than their owners want to admit. I found a place above a marina workshop with stairs that complain and a window the size of a promise. The downstairs smells like oil and salt, and men who use their hands to keep other people's weekends floating. My office is one room with a drafting table and a door with my name painted on the glass in a font I chose, because letters deserve honesty too. For the first month, I cooked badly and ate gratefully and bought 2 plants I feared I would kill because the fear made me water them. Work found me because work always does when you answer your phone and you speak like someone who has measured a beam and knows what it can hold. The county called about a pedestrian bridge whose footings had shifted with the last storm. We need eyes that don't panic, the engineer said. Mine are tired. I told her I had spare. Talia wrote once, long, the week after I moved. I can explain. It began, which is a sentence that always means I want to reframe. She apologized like she was allergic to blame, which is to say in paragraphs. I didn't reply. A month later she wrote again, angry this time, telling herself and me that I had run and that adults work through things. I archived that one without feeling much of anything beyond a small relief that my inbox had become a museum for old ways of speaking. The third message, 3 months on, I understand. I wish you well. I believed her inscription more than I believed anything before it. Understanding sometimes arrives when its supply lines run through empty rooms. There was no big scene where I saw them at a grocery store and pretended not to. There was no parking lot confrontation. Friends texted to say they'd seen Marcus at the wine bar explaining a lot without admitting much. Talia returned to becoming the main character of whatever room she entered. I stopped being one of her props. It felt like learning to breathe in a new altitude and realizing the air where you used to live had been thin for years. Seabright taught me what the sound of a healthy quiet is. Foghorns in the morning. Ropes hitting hull. A neighbor's radio 2 doors over playing the same oldies station, because she likes how cheerful it sounds to be bored. I ran at dawn on the seawall and learned the names of birds from a retired biology teacher who absolutely refuses to call a herring gull a seagull. I bought a paperback atlas from a bookstore run by a woman who knows where everyone lives and won't tell you unless you also read poetry. I met someone because that's how lives work when you're not trying to trick them into happening. Her name is Nadia. She runs a repair cafe at the library once a month where people bring their broken things and volunteers bring patience. I watched her coax a toaster back into honesty with nothing but a screwdriver, a soft bristle brush, and a story about how appliances want to do the jobs they were made for if you let them. We went for coffee at a place that still uses actual ceramic mugs. She listens like a corridor, longer than you think, warmer than the wind expects. On our second date, I told her about Talia and the house, and the day 2 beach chairs witnessed me exiting my old life. I'm sorry you had to be so competent, she said, which is the exact right kind of sorrow to offer a person who cleaned up his own mess to avoid making a bigger one. She asked what my best change since was. I write rules for myself, I said. Simple. On paper. Where I can't pretend I didn't. No half-truths. No practice partners. No confusing somebody's attention for evidence they know how to love. She nodded and wrote that last sentence on a napkin and put it in her bag. You can steal it, I said. I stole half of it from a bird. How? Watch, I said, and pointed at a cormorant lifting its wings on a piling to dry. It doesn't ask the ocean to be different. It asks the sun to do what it does. It waits. It doesn't pretend it isn't cold. The couple who bought my crocus house sent a postcard to the forwarding address Ms. Lang had put on the last page of closing. 3 photos printed from a home printer in colors a little too vivid. Their first dinner on the floor, paper plates, and a candle stuck in a jar. The backyard with a rope swing, and an ugly but proud bird feeder their niece made at camp. A construction paper chain counting down to their adoption court date. Thank you for leaving the place kinder than you found it, the note said. We feel it in the walls. I put the postcard on my fridge with a magnet shaped like a lobster and stared at it whenever I thought about wishing anything had gone differently. Clean endings are rare. I had been given one. All it had cost me was refusing to barter with my own dignity. If you came here for a cinematic revenge scene, I'm a disappointment. Nobody clapped when I told Talia I sold the house. There was no perfect line. There were lists and receipts and a storage key and a car headed east. There was the way the rain sounded on my new roof the first night I slept alone in Seabright and realized that quiet can be proof of survival instead of a threat. There was the note I stuck on the inside of a cabinet where only I'd see it. No one who asks for me in installments gets a lifetime. What would you have done if she'd come back in week 1 and told the truth? Owen asked me once over chowder that scalded my tongue. If she'd said, I thought about him, I saw him, I realized it was an old ache pretending to be a new future. I would have listened, I said. Then I would have taken a day by myself, for myself, at a kitchen table where I could hear my own voice without hers. And then I would have made the same decision, I think. Not because I hate her. Because I am done renting out my self-respect to people who pay in admiration and spend in secrecy. My work has a term for what I did, monumenting. You drive a stake where a boundary actually is so nobody can pretend later they thought it was somewhere else. A monument in my life. Steady now. I told myself on mornings when nostalgia tried to rename itself mercy. Your job is to mark and move. Months passed. Then a year. I could tell you that I never thought of Talia again. That would be both unbelievable and unearned. What I can say is that when I did think of her, she felt less like a person I had lost and more like a route I had learned to stop taking to avoid the traffic. I built a desk out of the old dining table, sanded it down, kept the part where knives had scarred it to remind me that use is evidence of living, not failure at gentleness. I answered emails from towns that needed new sidewalks and not new laws enforced about which hedges were exactly as tall as they should be. I watched Nadia hold a lamp over a broken blender and tell a kid, "It's okay to admit you don't know yet," and felt something in my chest like sun on a sealed deck. One afternoon, a storm blew through with the suddenness coastal places accept like fate. The power flickered, the marina swore. I stood at my window with a mug and watched water sow itself into sheets. The sound it made on the pavement wasn't applause. It was work. It was 1,000 small honest things doing exactly what they do until the shape of the day changed. Revenge, I have learned, is a misunderstood word. People picture flames. They don't picture a ledger balance to zero. They don't picture a storage key pressed into an open hand with inventory attached. They don't picture a cleanly closed front door and a car that does not return to a place where lies call themselves kindness. They don't picture a quiet office above a workshop that smells like better mornings, a postcard that says the walls are grateful, a note inside a cabinet that keeps you from lying to yourself in the small hours. If someone you love asks for time, listen to their architecture. The house they're building with that word has exits concealed in the closets. You can either pretend you didn't see them and hope they never use them, or you can map the space honestly, mark your corners, and walk out first. It isn't dramatic. It is disciplined. I'm not angry. I am measured. That's different. Anger burns hot and asks for witnesses. Measurement is a line painted where it belongs, whether anyone looks or not. Sometimes I think about the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. The one that danced itself apart because its designers forgot the wind is a person with opinions. Talia and I built something that swayed beautifully for a while. Then the gusts arrived. We could have bolted new braces on. She chose to see how it felt to jump. I chose to step back and start again where the bedrock still keeps its promises. Seabright taught me a different kind of patience. There's a jetty where the older fishermen show up before it's light to talk in low voices about tides and grief. When they're done, they laugh and spit and tie knots their grandfathers taught them. They do not explain their ropes to men who wander over with glossy shoes. They have work. So do I. Nadia and I walked that jetty last week while a kid in a hoodie practiced balancing along the edge like a circus act. She slid her hand into mine without ceremony. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I used to think love was decorating a room," I said. "Now I think it's agreeing on load-bearing walls." She snorted. "Only you," she said. "But also yes." We watched a cormorant lift. Wing bones shone in the brief light like architectural drawings. When we went home, we taped a new note card inside a different cabinet. We wrote it together with a black marker. It said, "Tell the truth on day one." It sits next to my old rules and reminds me that the only calendar I owe anyone is the one where I mark the days I kept my word to myself. If Talia somehow hears this, I hope she finds what she was looking for that doesn't hurt anyone on the way. I hope she learns the difference between the thrill of being chosen and the discipline of choosing. I hope she buys a plant and keeps it alive long enough to understand that consistency is more romantic than candles. As for me, if a stranger at a party asks why I moved here, I tell them the truth. The boundary changed. I moved the stake. They nod like they don't quite get it. It doesn't matter. Nadia gets it. The birds get it. The tide definitely gets it. I left the life Talia thought was guaranteed and built one that doesn't need anyone's guarantee but mine. That's the whole trick. When someone asks if you can spare them time, check your watch. If you've been paying attention, you'll realize your hours are already spoken for by the version of you who refused to measure himself in halves.